各位，我哋夠法定人。
Members, good morning. We formed a quorum. May I call the meeting to order? This is the subcommittee on proposals on the method for selecting the chief executive in 2017, the second meeting. Please invite the administration to join us.
早晨，譚志源局長。
Good morning, Mr. Raymond Tam, Secretary for Constitution and Mainland Affairs, and we also have Mr. Gordon Leung, Deputy Secretary, Mr. Freely Zheng, PAS, and Ms. Rosanna Zheng, Deputy Solicitor General from DFJ. So at the last meeting, we raised questions on the proposals, and this meeting we're going to continue with our discussion with the administration. So members, you can put questions to the Secretary, and I've seen some hands already. I have got Ms. Emily Lau, Mr. Wong Kwok Heng, Dr. An Zheng. Any more? Does any other members wish to speak on this subject? If not, then each member will have 4 minutes. First, Ms. Emily Lau. Thank you, Chairman. The 3-member task force ended up with only 1 member present at this meeting. The task force should listen to the views of the community more often. So, Secretary, can you explain to me whether next time you're going to come again, or will you just ask Mr. Lau Kong Wah to communicate with us? And from what I've heard, perhaps you haven't been too successful in your contact with the community. Either you are attacked by some members of the public, or you didn't get off the bus, and also Dr. Cohen Man had some conflict with a member of the public. When you go to the community, your intention is to communicate with the public. So will you have a new arrangement whereby you would sit down and discuss with your supporters or opposers instead of riding around in your bus or yelling at members of the public, asking them to listen to you? So what is your intention? What is your plan? You please look at the opinion polls. You don't really get majority support as you claim. So I hope you can tell the Beijing authorities that these proposals based on the 831 decision will not be able to get the support of the community. And if the constitutional package is not passed, then Hong Kong will be in deep trouble. So can you ask Beijing to have a change of mind? Please give us some room, and please give us a package that will offer genuine choice to the public. Mr. Tam, thank you, and good morning, members. The CS4A is still in Europe, and therefore she's in fact out of town. As regards the Secretary for Justice, there is a representative from the DFJ, and she will be able to answer members' questions as well. Regarding our consultation or engaging the public, as you know, in the first and second round of public consultation, we have over 200-odd and 80-odd meetings with the different sectors of the community already, as set out in the report. So we are meeting with members now, and there will be 2 public hearings of this subcommittee, and we'll be able to hear the views of the public together with the subcommittee. On 22nd of April, when we announced the proposals, we did say that we're going to employ various ways and means and channels to explain our proposals to the public, and also to get their feedback. Of course, in the beginning, for reasons you may already learn from the media, we couldn't really get in touch with the public so successfully, but we will continue to get in touch with the public in different ways. In the past couple of days, you might have not seen any of our activities in the public, but I'm sure there will be more to come. So have you given up your plan to consult the district or the community? No, we have no plans to do so. It's just that in the past few days we didn't have any public events. Ms. Samlina asked us to relay the latest situation to the central authorities. That is noted, and we will take appropriate action. But we're asking Beijing to change the 831 decision. Can that be said to Beijing? All views, including those just expressed by Ms. Samlina, will be reflected to Beijing when we have the opportunity. Mr. Wong Kwok Heng. Thank you, Chairman. The opposition camp said that this report and that the public opinions collected were really deceiving the central authorities and were not telling the truth, and that the report has scored a fail. I hope the administration can truly reflect the views of the public to the central authorities. Since the publication of the report, I note that on the 4th of May, this Monday, the central authorities, or rather the highest leader of the central authorities in Hong Kong, that is Mr. Zhang Xiaoming, head of the liaison office, published an article on Wen Pao. The article is 6,000 words long. It has clearly set out the central authorities' positioning and analysis of universal suffrage with Hong Kong characteristics in Hong Kong. He is fully aware of the public sentiments and public opinions and the situation in Hong Kong. So I hope the SARG can note this very clear position and attitude from the central authorities. And therefore, the report from the government to the central authorities has not deceived the latter at all. Mr. Zhang said here very clearly that the universal suffrage system in Hong Kong has 4 characteristics. First, the special constitutional position of Hong Kong, the pace of democratization in Hong Kong, the very complicated political ecology in Hong Kong, and also aspirations from different sectors of Hong Kong. Mr. Zhang talked about the merits of the system. First, it is entirely constitutional. It is very democratic, and it is very safe and sound. And Mr. Zhang also refuted the comments by the opposition camp, saying that the proposed universal suffrage model is not in line with international standards.
What did Mr. Zhang say in this article? He said that in the world there is not a political system or a universal suffrage model that is suitable to all countries. In countries where there is universal suffrage, their election systems are not the same. In the UK, voters cannot directly vote to select the Prime Minister. Well, there can only be an election to return members of the lower house. In other countries, for the ruler of the country, it is still inherited. And in the U.S., the president is returned by nominees committee. So that's all I would like to cite. So I would like to say that the central government is very clear about people's opinions in Hong Kong. The SARG's report is not misleading at all. When the report was issued by the government, the opposition camp members said that the report is not up to standard. They gave a cross to the report. Now, government, are you going to offer a tutorial class for these LegCo members? Or perhaps Mr. Zhang should conduct a tutorial class for these members? Any response from the Secretary? Oh, you have used up your 4 minutes. Secretary, just a simple response, please. All right. What I can do is to borrow from Mr. Wang the article for the administration's reference. Of course, the government is not courageous enough to conduct a tutorial class for members. Members should have their own channels to gather information. This article has been copied to all LegCo members so that they can read the article. They shouldn't say that the report is misleading. They shouldn't say that the central government is not in the know. They should not refer to the wrong facts and say that they are true. Ms. Tiang, recently I have been paying attention to the opposition camp members. I wonder whether there's the possibility that they will change their mind. If so, what can they do? All members of the public are concerned about universal suffrage, and many people would like to be able to go to the polling station to cast a vote to select the CE in 2017. As you all know, in the last CE election, there are 3 candidates. Among them, C.Y. Leung and Henry Tang had an intense competition. Some members of the public said that they would vote for this candidate, and some members would vote for the others. So in 2017, we hope to see that there will be 2 to 3 candidates who will debate on television. And when there's a choice for the public, competition will even be more intense. At the end of the day, if the public can cast their votes, I think this is definitely a happy event. The pan-democratic camp members object to this proposal, and they have raised a lot of objections. But I am really puzzled. On the 2nd of May, Mr. Li Cheng-yan said on the radio that if I supported this proposal today, well, at that time I felt happy. He said that means that he's telling the whole world that this is a good proposal and they are in support. And in the future, he won't be able to confront further. Now, at that time, I really felt amazed and puzzled. This is about the Hong Kong public. Why is this related to the whole world? And why do we need to pay attention to foreigners' reactions? I think he has told everyone what is in his mind. I think he is really concerned about foreign powers or foreigners' reactions. On another occasion, Ms. Audrey Yu, senior counsel, was interviewed, and the program host asked her if the proposal was not carried, then will there be a very chaotic situation in Hong Kong? Now, today, if you are not able to reach consensus with the central government in the future, how can you enable the central government to change their mind? Now, Audrey Yu did not answer the question directly. Of course, there won't be a revolution. Audrey Yu is a very sophisticated, polite lady. She said that she doesn't want a Chinese-style universal suffrage. Okay, you don't want a Chinese system. Today, there's no universal suffrage in China. A Chinese-style system, what is it? What does that mean? Now, in the whole world, everybody commends China's economic system, and this economic system has been in place for 30 years. It has been proven that it's successful. Now, apart from this success, we are making progressive move. Okay, Chairman, I've got only 4 minutes. I will wait for my next turn. I will pause here. Okay, that's very good. Mr. Ip Kwok Him, thank you, Chairman. Just now, Ms. Emily Lau said that she referred to Kennedy Town, and in fact, I have been to Kennedy Town to express our views. I think government officials wanted to get in touch with members of the public. They want to, members of the public want to express their views about constitutional reform. However, I find it regrettable, and I would really like to condemn these very free people who try to cause a damage to government officials who consulted the districts, including LegCo members. This is not democratic. Under democracy, yes, people should express their views, but you should not cause obstruction. Now, some people confronted police officers, and they caused damage to law and order. I think this should be condemned. All members of the public should understand that everybody can express his views, but this should not be done in a very inconsiderate or reckless manner. What kind of democracy do we want to have? Do we want to have such low-level democracy? How can we accept it? We have been proud of the freedom that we have. We enjoy freedom to express our views. The pan-democratic members have been referring to freedom of speech, but then now we are seeing some very low-level, very poor-level democracy. I think that those remarks against the government officials are intolerable. Mr. Tam should answer Ms. Emily Lau's question. She asked whether it's possible to change the 831 decision, and you said that you would relay the view. Now, what is the position of the SARG? I think the CS4A had made a clearer remark. Okay, Ms. Emily Lau said that if this is not carried, then there will be a big problem. Okay, this is your direction. But if it is not carried, then what will happen? Will Hong Kong collapse? What is your assessment? Secretary, I hope you can give an answer. Within the 831 framework, in the consultation paper, through consultation, in what ways do you think that there may be room for change? Secretary, thank you, Chairman. First of all, I agree with Mr. Ip. I think more room should be given to government officials to come into contact with members of the public, to listen to their views and to explain our proposal. Last time, I regret that we did not meet members of the district directly in Kennedy Town. As Mr. Ip said, on the 31st August last year, the NPCSC, under the second step of the constitutional procedure, made that decision. So, under the laws, there is no room to revoke or change it. And then in step 3 of the constitutional reform, major elements of 831 and also amendments, Annex 1 amendments, were spelled out in the amendment issued on the 22nd April. Our position is that this amendment is constitutional, legal, reasonable, within the framework of the basic law, as the CS4A said. And we do not see any further room for amendments. And we hope to get member support in the future. Thank you. Thank you. Next, Mr. Jeffrey Lam. Chairman, thank you. We are here to listen to views, and I think that all these points have been made already. There are no new points. how can there be so-called genuine or not genuine universal suffrage? Every country has its own cultural, geographical, historical background. Now, in the U.S., people said that there's genuine universal suffrage, but then Elcor had lost his position. And is it really true that the American policemen are up to international standard, but Hong Kong policemen are not up to international standards? Is it true that beating up people is up to international standards? I think there is too much argument and quarrel. Should we come back to our actual circumstances? We always say that we want rule of law, and rule of law is based on mutual respect. If you only say that the government can only take on board our views but not other people's views, then there won't be any consensus. There would always be this wide gap. Chairman, don't forget that in society based on rule of law, we are not only talking about local laws. Under one country, two systems, we cannot disregard one country. 831 has its constitutional foundation or basis, and it is a solemn decision. If you always say that it should be changed, of course, in a free society, everyone can say whatever he likes, but is the point reasonable? We always heard opinion poll or public poll being referred to, and 50 to 60% of the respondents are in support of the government's proposal to have one man, one vote in 2017. And I don't think the results will change too much, even if the poll is conducted by other units. Now, I've heard what Mr. Emily Lau said. I don't know whether the central government has done anything, or does it only listen to SARG? Emily Lau always said that the SARG has not reflected certain points to the central government. Based on my observation and experience, the central government is familiar with Hong Kong, with all the systems, with all the incidents, and they know the points raised by different political parties. Okay, I would allow more time for the Secretary to respond. There are so many people giving different points in Hong Kong. If everybody runs an opinion poll, well, I don't think there will be enough time, even up to 2047, to complete all the opinion polls. Not to say universal suffrage in 2017. What should you do, Secretary?
I agree with members that the central authorities do know the opinions of Hong Kong people very well. Just to cite an example, once I was having lunch with military officials, and just next to our table there was a TV broadcasting news of Hong Kong around the clock. So in the first two paragraphs of A31 decision was said very clearly that in addition to the CE's report, the central authorities has considered views from other sources before coming to a decision announced on August 31st. Oh, it's about time. I'll come back and address these issues later when I have the opportunity. Mr. Ronnie Tong, Chairman, I think at this stage nothing more can be said. But as I sit here listening to remarks from the Democratic camp and the pro-establishment camp, I feel that up till now we have not really grasped the crux of the matter. I'm sure the central authorities fully understand the situation of Hong Kong. So we cannot rely on opinion polls or meeting the public to resolve this dispute. If there's someone listening to our remarks in front of the TV now, they will feel very fed up. Why are members playing hide and seek here? Why have they blinded themselves and feeling their way around? So the question is not that the central authorities or Hong Kong people don't know what is happening. The question is, Beijing regard this constitutional reform as a fight for power, and yet the democratic camp here regarded as a yardstick of progress in democracy. Now, if the difference in position cannot be resolved here, there is no way we can move forward. I think the only way to resolve the matter is to engage both parties in a dialogue and try to find a middle-of-the-road approach in between these two extremes. The pan-democratic camp should convince the public that this is not a fight for power. Professor Lau Shoukai recently wrote a 8,000-word article. Is even longer than that written by Zhang Xiaoming. He said that it is a final confrontation. Whether Hong Kong is a political entity and whether we in Hong Kong regard ourselves as a political entity, whereas the central authorities regard Hong Kong as special administrative region under the central authorities. I don't know whether these reflects the view of the central government's central authorities. In fact, we are talking about a yardstick of democratic development. I think looking at the quality and way we discussed this issue just now, I don't think it is going to help much. The administration should arrange a meeting between pan-democrats and central authorities officials. Even though we cannot resolve this conflict this time, I hope that when the next opportunity comes, Hong Kong can march forward in the road of democracy. Secretary, regarding the point made by Mr. Ronnie Tong, in the light of members' requests and views, we will continue to try to arrange a meeting between legislators and also central authorities so that they can state the position to the central authorities directly. I agree with Mr. Ronnie Tong that we're dealing with a political issue, and more dialogue can be useful. And I also agree with Mr. Tong that a dialogue will not just resolve the current differences. Rather, in the long term, different political groups in LegCo should sort out our long-term relationship with the central authorities. Thank you. Dr. Priscilla Leung. Some members here said that they would not accept this Chinese-style universal suffrage. Please don't discuss the proposals using language such as Chinese-style or Western-style as if everything in Chinese style is despicable. Now, in fact, the central authorities are trying out this new model. Otherwise, we won't have one country, two systems. We will only have one country, one system. So please don't, right from the beginning, think that anything that is Chinese is not good. Perhaps it is good. I think we should do it our way. And I think we should think out of the box. We should consider the issue from a brand new angle, and please do not offend the other party as a start. And I don't agree with Fanny Law when she said on the radio that Dennis Kwok and Ronnie Tong, who had the opportunity to visit Beijing, would have an opportunity to join the CE race. I'm very against this way of discussion. It's not about ensuring that pan-democrats can join the CE race, and it's not true that we'll certainly give our votes to someone from the pro-establishment camp. We want to come up with a system that can balance the different interests in Hong Kong and to deal with our relations with the central authorities. And we should also ensure that one country, two system can move forward. I've discussed with experts that have say on the mainland on this subject. The Chinese authorities have to consider what would the impact on the whole country if Hong Kong has universal suffrage first. So they want us to have a go, hoping that we can be successful. You know that the central authorities are also worried, on the other hand, that it may be a wrong move. And if we do not have this mentality and continue to criticize, then it would just be counterproductive. If we do not have this concept of one country, then this bargaining will end up unsuccessful. We will not get what we want. And secondly, there should be no more illusions. Please don't think that there will be a replay of the 2012 incident. For those who know the country well, have told you that there should be no more illusion. And I don't support further opinion polls, either from the administration or from someone in the community. We have to show that there's a historic responsibility. Yes, I respect your view that the proposals are on the conservative side, but it is already very advanced compared with other models in the country. So this difference cannot be resolved by meeting with officials, because this has gone beyond the issue in Hong Kong. It's all about whether we're willing to step back and accept this rather conservative model. Maybe you don't think it's the best, but some of us here may also not think that it's the best, but we're willing to at least take a step forward. Now, if you understand the development in China, I'm sure we will not have to accept this model forever. There will be changes in the future. Mr. Christopher Chung, I think some members from the Democratic camp are still in a dream. They still think that the 831 decision can be changed. They think that by pressurizing the central authorities, things can be changed. And they also dream that the central authorities would collapse sooner or later. We've gone through so many months of discussion, and the so-called umbrella movement or revolution also failed. And the central authorities are still the same. So it's time for them to wake up. We should focus on what we can do based on the 831 framework, and what more we can do and what more we can get. So, Chairman, I think we should end this meaningless discussion soon. They still talk about changing 831 decision. It is a waste of time, just like the filibusters they have. So, Chairman, I hope you can end this meaningless discussion ASAP, and please discuss under the 831 framework what are the areas we can work on to enhance the elements of democracy in the system. And I think that will be more meaningful to the development of democracy in Hong Kong. Now, it is hard for me to comment on, to say whether members' remarks are meaningful or not. I can only say that if members have digressed too much, I will stop that. I'll have to stop that and advise the member to come back to the main theme. But you, as the chairman, has a responsibility to decide how the proposals should be discussed, because they keep on making the same remarks, repeating the same remarks, and next time they may still be talking about changing the 831 decision. Why don't we use our time more effectively and discuss other things? Now, this has just the second meeting, and we have more than 60 members in this subcommittee. Some members didn't have the chance to speak last time, and if they talk about changing 831 decision, I cannot stop them. And I do agree with you that next time perhaps we can concentrate on Annex 8 of the paper, that is the draft of the resolution, and then we can go through the resolution clause by clause. But right now I will still allow members to express their views, and then come the next meeting we will go through the resolution clause by clause. Thank you. I have to leave first. Mr. Tan Ka-piu. Thank you, Chairman. I think remarks by a former senior official were quite inspiring. I'm talking about Mr. Michael Xun. He asked the Pan-Democrats, why can't we have a CE and his team with a stronger political mandate? I think this question by Mr. Michael Xun shows that he has a deeper understanding of the matter than many people in Hong Kong. If the constitutional proposals are not endorsed, then the CE will continue to face challenges, and without enough mandate, it is hard for him to do things to improve our people's livelihood and also the economy. I think Dr. Priscilla Leung made a very good point. Relying on large opinion polls may not help the matter at all. Members should think for themselves what should be the way forward for Hong Kong. And even though the Secretary may not be able to answer the following question, I still hope that he can consider this. We have an organization which frequently organizes large-scale processions. And it claims that when LegCo is going to vote on the proposals, it is going to motivate over 100,000 people to besiege the council building. Whether that would end up in a large-scale movement, we don't know, but this has happened before. There are 47 members, at least 47 members, who would like to vote for the proposals after careful consideration. How can you ensure that they will not be prevented from entering the building to the effect that they may be the personal safety might be jeopardized? How are we going to address this possibility? Secretary, Hong Kong is a place where the rule of law prevails, so we will enforce the law. The legislature is a very important organization of the government, so when members have to vote on any matter, well, there is a relevant legal provision on this.
If someone causes obstruction, this is already a criminal liability. Now, the police is aware of what is happening in society, and they will make appropriate arrangements. Now, in LegCo, of course, we need the support of LegCo members and the Secretariat so as to ensure that you will be able to discharge your responsibility, because the LegCo premises are managed by LegCo. So the police will keep in touch with LegCo. I still have 20 seconds. Mr. Tang, I hope you don't mind. You quoted from Mr. Michael Xun, and in fact, he used to be in my position. Both of us had not gone through election, but we do know the power of votes. If 5 million people cast their votes, then to a large extent, this can affect CE candidate and the elected CE's policy making and governance. This can also become a driving force to improve and optimize the future election system. As you said, Hong Kong and the Hong Kong public should be given a chance to realize their rights to vote, and also that they should be given the power to influence future policy making. Hong Kong should be given a chance. Mrs. Regina Ip. Thank you, Chairman. Just now, Mr. Ronnie Tong said that Beijing's views are not only related to democratic development, it is actually a power struggle. And there is another scholar, Professor Ip Kim Man, said that this constitutional reform argument is related to the relationship between China and Hong Kong. Some people would like to change Hong Kong into another form of political entity through this constitutional reform. So I would like to ask Mr. Tan for his views. I agree with Mr. Ronnie Tong that there should be more communication in relation to this kind of basic argument, but now there is not enough time. Some Democratic camp members felt disappointed. Last time they gave support in 2012, but then they could not see a normalization of relationship between them and the central government. How can the relationship be normalized? Opposition in Western politics is not negative. You are either in the ruling party or in the opposition party. In the UK, those candidates standing for election now are some of them are in the opposition, and they accept their constitutional status, and they accept the state. Now, in the coming days, before the decision is to be made, is there any opportunity for the central government to have a dialogue with those pan-democratic members? Will you fight for that, Secretary? I agree with Mrs. Regina Ip, especially her citation of Raymond Ip's remarks. Well, this is related to the relationship between Hong Kong and central government. And in Article 43 of Basic Law, it is stated that the chief executive has to be responsible to the Hong Kong SAR as well as the central government. Then the relationship between central government and Hong Kong is very important. The chief executive is not only the leader of the SARG and also the leader of the SAR, really. Mrs. Yip's first point is about whether this is related to the power and the right of governance. Yes, the CE will implement a high degree of autonomy and rule of law and basic law in Hong Kong. Mrs. Yip said that last time some LegCo members gave support to the government, thinking that the relationship could then be normalized, but then this result was not achieved. There are a lot of discussions in society. The related political parties had expressed their disappointment both in public as well as in private. They were upset. In the past days, we had reflected to the central government these members' disappointment and their views. Central government officials responsible for Hong Kong affairs said that their views are as follows. All 70 LegCo members represent Hong Kong people with different backgrounds in different sectors and with different mentality. So these people could not be excluded from the communication between the central government and Hong Kong. All 70 members had gone through a constitutional and legal channel, i.e. election, to join the council. And the LegCo is part of the establishment. So we must maintain a normal communication and relationship with all 70 LegCo members. There is the need to do this. In the future, I hope the SARG and LegCo members can work hard towards the direction mentioned by Mrs. Ip. Not only one political party, but all 70 members should work hard and head for this direction. Next, Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. Just now, Chung Shu-kan said that the pan-democratic camp has fantasized that the central government will give way, that this is unrealistic. But then various opinion polls reflect that almost 40% of Hong Kong people won't give up. They won't give in. They will not accept the constitutional reform proposal under the 831 framework. If there is not a major change in the constitutional reform proposal, then from now till the point of vote or till the post-constitutional reform days, the current situation will persist. So, is it really true that the SARG does not have the responsibility to handle this important problem? We're talking about an important political issue, and almost 40% of Hong Kong people won't find the proposal acceptable. Now, SARG and central government, is there any way to find a way out? That's my first point. In the 2012 LegCo election, we expressed to the Hong Kong public very clearly that we want to strive for a genuine universal suffrage for CE election in 2017. When it comes to universal suffrage, of course, there should not be unreasonable restrictions. This is the most fundamental point under international standards. Will there be unreasonable restrictions in the political system? That is a standard used for measurement. In the 622 electronic opinion poll, there are almost 12 options that can fulfill these conditions, not only public nomination. But then has the SARG carefully considered this point and tried to identify a way out? Finally, I want to point out that what we have to deal with is not only whether the pan-democratic members will vote in support. We need to solve the political conflicts in Hong Kong. If there is this political conflict all the way, well, just now, some members said that the chief executive should be given more political energy. But then because of a political screening, the chief executive candidates were allowed to stand in for the election. If that's the case, his political energy will also be undermined. In the council, there will continue to be the political conflict. Then how can we improve the current situation in Hong Kong, whether or not the proposal will be carried or not? Secretary, Mr. Wu raised this very deep-rooted concern. Well, I can refer to Mrs. Regina Ip's point to answer his questions. Now, Mr. Wu referred to political conflict and also post-constitutional reform days. Well, the gist of the problem is the relationship between the central government and the SAR. This constitutional reform is not about only the conflict within Hong Kong. We need a good relationship between the SAR and the central government, and this relies on hard work on both sides. And I find it regrettable. Mr. Wu referred to the various options. I also find it a pity if not only 3 options are left, if public nomination is not a method being emphasized. Perhaps the situation is not the same, but that was passed already. Now we have to deal with the amendment proposed by the SARG. So I hope that you will focus back onto the amendment. Mr. Lee Cheng-yen. Okay, as Chung Shu-kan said, we continue to fantasize and we continue to object to the 831 framework. Okay, he said that this is a fantasy, but then actually this is because the 831 framework is unconstitutional. The NPC's decision is against the basic law. It is a decision being built in an illegal way. Another principle is that with the 831 framework, there won't be a real choice for the Hong Kong public. Michael Soon said that if this proposal is carried, then the CE will be given political energy to govern Hong Kong. But then this is deceiving, because we then will only have a pseudo universal suffrage, and there won't be people's mandate. Mrs. Carrie Lam said that if you don't like it, you can cast a blank vote. But then this is redundant. Eventually, this is just a false universal suffrage. At the end of the day, the conflict can't be solved. At the end of the day, everything will be dictated by 1,200 people. That means 1,200 people are superior to 5 million people. Chung Shu-kan has always been aspired to being a political slave. And I think you are even worse than Jiu Gou, because Jiu Gou pointed at a deer and said that it's a horse, and you are referring to a pseudo universal suffrage and said that it is a genuine one. But we must say the truth. The 831 decision is not something that can give real choice to the public. Recently, Tung Chee-hwa made some remarks. He said that a person who is anti-CCP cannot be a CE candidate. Now, this is the issue. You are always moving the goalpost around. Now, how do you define anti-communism? Secretary, are you anti-communism? You are not. You support communism? Well, I guess I support communism more than you, because we believe in a better way of allocation, but we are definitely against one-party rule, and we are against the Communist Party adopting one-party rule. How do you define anti-communism? For the 1,200 nomination committee, well, sometimes you deceive people. You said that the 1,200 people will be based on people's opinion. But Mr. Chung said that that is not true. The 1,200 people will do screening to see whether a candidate is anti-communist. I don't know what his definition is. Perhaps he will see which candidates are approved by the central government. Then just say that the nomination committee is just a rubber stamp. In the past, there are the election committee. In the future, there are nomination committee. They will screen out those who are anti-communist.
I can only say that the qualifications for a C candidate can be found in the basic law. I want you to comment on Mr. C. Tung's remarks. Yes? Yes? A point of order. What point of order? Just now, Mr. Lee Chek-yen said that you from the pro-establishment camp are slaves. Has he breached ROP 41, bracket 4, using offensive and insulting languages against any member of the council, although he did not name any particular pro-establishment member. However, I think it is some commonly known in society that who are pro-establishment camp members. Can I say that the opposition members are waste? What does she mean by 廢鄧 waste? I don't know whether it is okay. They're rubbish. What is meant by 廢鄧? How do you write the Chinese character 鄧? Well, you can go look up the dictionary. Is the term 廢鄧 in the dictionary? Please, no dialogue between yourselves. Well, we are in the middle of a very good debate. We're exchanging our views. Why has he resorted to such a low language to challenge us and to insult us? Someone is very impolite. Well, it is a habit of some members when they are speaking. Perhaps it is early in the morning and people are not in a good mood. And the important thing is we should respect one another. And please do not launch attacks at one another. Is pointless. Why don't we go on? Secretary, I was asking about Mr. Sichtung's remarks. Well, regarding Mr. Sichtung's remarks, there are different opinions expressed by different people in society every day, so we cannot comment on these remarks, including those from Mr. Sichtung. I can only say that Article 44 of the Basic Law has got the basic qualifications on a C candidate, and then according to our local legislation, a C elect cannot have any political affiliation, and I think all candidates will fight for support based on their background and respective political platform. Ms. Chen Yunhan. All right, as the Secretary said, let bygones be bygones, but it is really regrettable that we could have come to a consensus. However, when people went to the extreme, then the dialogue could not go on. I think in the past year or so, we have a lot to learn and reflect on, and that includes the government itself. I've been in contact with the government in the past year or so, and I have the feeling that it was trying to do something. Unfortunately, at a certain stage, the difficulties were too big, in particular during the Occupy Central period. Anyway, we have only a month or so, and it is hard to expect a miracle to happen. I believe that there are some members who are willing, who can be persuaded to change their mind. And recently there are remarks that perhaps based on the 831 decision, something can be done. So I'd like to know what plans does the administration have. Secretary, as I said, we are proposing Annex 1 for members to consider. It is based on the 831 decision, and there are also things are not in the 831 decision, but that should be clearly set out. For instance, whether there should be a nominating stage, and how candidates can be nominated by the committee. As I said, there is no room or no possibility for further amendments to the annex. As regards what happens beyond 2017, now on a constitutional level, that is what's in Annex 1, and also the local legislation and regulations. Can things be amended? Well, the procedures are always there, and the system is always here, and things can always be changed in the light of actual circumstances. But as pointed out by some persons in the community, any amendments can only be proposed in the light of operational experience. So as Ms. Chen Yan said, we hope that the resolution can be voted on before the summer recess, and I hope members can make the decision based on the resolution on Annex 1. We have only a month or so to go. So according to the administration and the central authorities' decision, this is more or less so. And Mr. Li Fei said that changes can only be made after implementation. Can something more be done under the 831 decision? For instance, they've asked to meet with the central government. There are different ideas. Some also asked me whether there can be some changes to the different sectors. I also agree that it's a bit too late, but can this be considered? Secretary, as mentioned in a report and looking at the reality, even if we juggle with the small details, it will not change the whole picture much. But some changes are better than none. With some small minor changes, perhaps some people who oppose you now may turn to support you. Is it really unthinkable? I think our judgment is that the proposals are based on previous discussions and the current situation. I understand Madam Chen Yuanhan's goodwill, but sometimes the reality is the reality. Ms. Sari Lee. Well, the global trend is cooperation, mutual respect, and to get a real situation. So even countries are talking about cooperation. Although U.S. and Sino relations are always one of competition, but still they would like to cooperate to get a women's situation. And that's why there's the one road, one belt. And Mr. Julie Lin said that the 21st century is an era of cooperation, and there must be cooperation between the two sides of the strait. So even the CCP and the National Party are willing to engage in cooperation. Yet in Hong Kong, we are not in the 21st century mentality. Communication between the central authorities and the opposition camp is very superficial, if there is any. And some members are adopting the Cold War mentality and very confrontational. We know that this is already outdated. A Cold War mentality cannot achieve a win-win situation and resolve matters. So I urge the SL government to help us to create the favorable conditions. I agree with the Secretary that the deep-seated issue is relations between the central authorities and the opposition camp. I think the central authorities are really concerned that the first election with universal suffrage in Hong Kong will be exploited by some other forces to create chaos in Hong Kong. When it comes to communication, I'd like to ask the administration whether there is opportunity for the whole council to meet the central authorities. However, I'd like to appeal to the opposition camp. Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen just now said that the other side was cheating us and saying that the decision, 831 decision, was unconstitutional. Well, you may have your feelings and sentiments, but if you don't understand the constitutional position of NPCSC, then this is really deceiving people. Secretary, I really agree to Ms. Sarili's suggestion. We're willing to work hard to this end. Yes, I understand. I do agree that communication between the central authorities and legislators may not necessarily be about the current issue. It will have some long-term impacts, as pointed out by Mr. Ronnie Tong. I agree that there are different camps of view in this matter, and whether 1 or 2 meetings with the central authorities can change the whole scene. Yes, this may be the aspirations of many people, but I think we should not pin too much hopes. We should not pin high hopes on that, because there were such opportunities in the past, but that did not promote positive development in relations. Still, the SAR government will work hard to this end, towards this end. And members of the council can also advise us as to whether they want this opportunity. If so, we can reflect to the central authorities. We would like to coordinate. Thank you. Mr. Mlang Singh. Thank you, Chairman. This is an opportunity that can only come once in 2 centuries, if I may say so, because 200 years or more than 100 years before the reunification, Hong Kong was in the hand of foreigners. Now we have the opportunity to choose our own leader, the chief executive. This is indeed a once in 2 century opportunity, and if we waste it, then it is really not in the interest of Hong Kong. I have got clients and ask whether we can set up bank accounts first with your bank, and then we can have more dealings, and then you can know my track record. I think that's a very good analogy. Yes, if you don't even open a bank account with my bank, how can I have further dealings with you? So this is a good idea. Let's not waste this once in a 2 century opportunity. It would be a great loss to Hong Kong if we do not get hold of this opportunity. Now turning to something more practical. As Mr. Lee said, there are hostile countries to China. And even when 2 countries are hostile to one another at the point of at the start of a war, they will still have diplomatic exchanges or talks. Of course, we have not come to such a state, but I have 2 questions regarding the reality. Article 43 of the Basic Law says that the CEO of the Hong Kong SAR is the chief executive of the Hong Kong SAR, and second, the CEO of the SAR is accountable to the central authorities and the and also to Hong Kong SAR. Now, if some members do not acknowledge the central authorities, well, as we all know, above the Basic Law, we have the Constitution.
Article 1 of the Constitution states that the CCP rules China. So if you do away with CCP, are you saying that we should also do away with China? This is a fact, even if you don't like it. In other countries, some supporters of the opposition party see that the ruling party is in power. And are you saying that they should fight with the ruling party every day? I think Article 43 should be promoted and better explained to the Hong Kong public, because this is the reality. We are part of the PRC. Our government head, and also persons in charge of the SARG have to be accountable to the central authorities. And central authority means CCP, leading PRC. And how can we get someone who objects to CCP to stand in the election? This is not a matter of screening. This is a matter of political reality. Should this be better explained? Oh, my time is up. Right. If you want, you can wait for your next turn. Mr. Leung Chi-Chuan. Thank you, Chairman. This morning, we are here to discuss the constitutional reform proposal. In fact, I am shocked because the pan-democratic camp, Ronnie Tong, raised some very mild points, but then the pan-democratic camp objects to even his views. Well, I sympathize with Mr. Ronnie Tong. I think his proposal, his suggestions are worth considering, but other people are not in agreement. I think the pan-democratic members object to the possibility or the chance to meet with the central government. When it comes to meeting with the central government, they always ask for signature and everybody should be bundled up. I think political figures should have a broad heart to solve politically tricky problems. They always ask for bundling up. And my consideration, my view, is actually quite in line with Mr. Si Wing-ching's views. In an article, Mr. Si Wing-ching said that the pan-democratic camp wants to object this constitutional reform proposal. His view is that after this proposal is opposed, or if this proposal is carried, then some people may lose the goal that they are striving for. Without that goal, then the pan-democratic camp won't have any more momentum. In the future, they will have a narrower and narrower path. So I share the same views. He said that if the proposal is voted down, then what will happen? He said that if the proposal is voted down, the pan-democratic camp will be in opposition with the people's opinion. So that means if they vote down on this proposal, they can only get 30-odd% of the votes. Only 30-odd% people will support them. After the reunification, this is the worst result in terms of getting people's support. On the other hand, the pro-establishment camp can ask people to cast their votes in the right way in the next legislative election. So this time, the pan-democratic camp is in a very bad time. I share the same views. The constitutional reform is a headache to the pan-democratic camp. Some people who oppose the central authorities cannot take part in the election. But many pan-democratic members said that they are against the central authorities. So that means they won't be able to participate in election this time. Under one country, two systems, if you think that you must confront the central authorities in order to get us in order to get a way out, then I think this is very sad. We are talking about confronting a very huge country. Is this very sad for Hong Kong people? If you want to overturn it, some Hong Kong people may agree, some, especially for those who are advocating for independent thinking. I will wait for my next turn. Mr. Alan Leung. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I am one of those who, according to some reports, was named by the central authorities that I should not be allowed to stand in the election. There is the so-called 2+N. Now, I am not putting myself in this position. In fact, my name is being singled out by some central government officials. I have not been causing any chaos in Hong Kong. I am not anti-Hong Kong, and no one has raised any evidence. But then, of course, everybody understands that this is a label for screening. I had said in public, and I can repeat my points here. If I promise not to take part in CE election for my whole life, and then the central government will give genuine universal suffrage to Hong Kong, then, well, you can record this point down that I won't participate in CE election for the rest of my life. Some members said that some people possess the Cold War mentality. I wonder whether this Cold War mentality is more appropriate, or you should say that the government has Cold War mentality. If you are saying that we want to control our own destiny, and that is about independence, striving for independence, well, unless if you say that. And then some people said that even the Western countries are trying to offer favors to China, because now China is a huge country. And then someone asked C.H. Tong whether Alan Leung and Audrey Yu can participate in election. And then are they anti-communist? When it comes to these remarks, who actually possesses this Cold War mentality? You're saying that the anti-communist people and foreign powers try to take advantage of universal suffrage to cause a threat to the country. Well, perhaps you should say that the central government is colluding with these privileged people, and they are taking advantage of our votes to legalize the arrangement that the pro-establishment people should get more favors. And then the 1,200 small circle should come up with a person to serve the central authorities. Now, Mr. Tam, have you said to the central government that there should not be ruled by people? Right, I understand that all powers are centralized in NPC, but then have you forgotten the Sino-British Joint Declaration? In 1993, Mr. Lu Ping said that the basic law only governs up to 2007-2008 election. After that, LegCo will act as a trigger with the approval of the CE and the central government. Have you already forgotten all these points? Next, Mr. Ho. Thank you, Chairman. So I have heard so many members' points, and there is one new point. Mr. Alan Leung said that he won't participate in CE election for the rest of his life. Now, I would like to say that if our discussion is based on whether or not a person can have the chance to be a CE candidate, well, this is not the point of our discussion. This point must be recorded, and I think this is not in line with the right quality as LegCo member. Whether or not you are anti-China, anti-Hong Kong is not only judged by your words. I think Hong Kong people can see what you have done. There should be a fair assessment of political figures. Some people said that this is all about a kind of struggle or conflict between the central government and the pan-democratic camp. I think all these have to be considered as some elements. There is not one single element that should be the basis for decision making. Should we strive for power? Definitely. It is written in the basic law and the constitution. If you trespass the boundary, then this is not right. The pan-democratic camp refers to the bottom line of democracy. But that is not the only reason, not necessarily. Well, there may be the money power behind. You may think that the Hong Kong public is behind the scene. I think it's up to the Hong Kong public to decide whether it is the American government or SAR government or a British government. No matter what excuse you use to object to the constitutional proposal, or even if you are spreading rumors, that is still wrong. There is not anything that will be pocketed for the whole life. Everything will change according to the actual political circumstances. The American Constitution has been amended. Now the blacks and women are allowed to vote. Now we want the 1,200 nomination committee system to be changed to allowing 5 million people to exercise their voting right. This is really unprecedented in history, and this opportunity is to be respected. Concerning communication between central authorities and the pan-democratic camp, this is not an egg-chicken paradox. I think, first of all, we must be open-minded, tolerant, and we should be compromising. Pan-democratic members must accept the constitution of the central authorities. That is the foundation. You should not ask China to set aside the constitution. If they do so, I am the first to object. That is the foundation of the country. It cannot be changed. If it has to be changed, it has to go through NPC. Even for the 831, you have to accept it. Well, you can disagree, but you cannot say you don't accept it. You can criticize. Still, you have to discuss within the framework about constitutional reform. So that is the responsibility of this subcommittee. Okay, the opposition party members said that we may have to pocket that forever. They want to discuss this forever, to tell the truth. They think that only they have the political halo or garland. Some members of the public said that only ordinary people will let opportunities pass and strong people will seize the opportunity. And I want to say that if you cause obstruction to people who want to seize the opportunity, you are evil. And if you want to cause obstruction to forward progress of democracy, then you are sinners. Mr. Wong Hok Hin, thank you, Chairman. Hong Kong is the first place within China that has the opportunity that all eligible voters in Hong Kong can cast a vote. There will be one man, one vote for the CE election. If this is voted down this time, it is really a pity. It is not only a pity, but there will be a lot of regrets. There are members who said that they would vote down on the proposal, and they are not resorting to reasons. They shout a lot of slogans. They have not pointed out the real problems or real issues. They only scold that this is false, universal suffrage, it is undemocratic, and so on. Will the Hong Kong public accept these slogans? I think there is too much slogan-type politics.
We're at a critical juncture of democratic development in Hong Kong, and I think the pan-democrats have to clarify this first. Does the central authorities have any say on this point? If we do not admit that the central authorities have say in universal suffrage in Hong Kong, there is no basis for communication. And if you accept that they do have a say, then you should communicate with the central authority on the basis of the 831 decision to see whether there is any leeway to maneuver, perhaps a compromise, so that there can be one person, one vote, universal suffrage by everyone in Hong Kong. We have been fighting for general universal suffrage for everyone in Hong Kong for a long time. We are not fighting to ensure the right for pan-democrats to be nominated as candidates. No matter how you smear this proposal from the government, you cannot explain clearly to the public. If the proposals are vetoed, then in 27 you will continue to have that 1,200 strong election committee. They are not just the nominating committee. They will elect the CE for you. So if the proposals are passed, at least the election committee will become the nominating committee, and the 5 million voters in Hong Kong will have a say in who should be their CE in 2017. On this basis, you still say that we are worse off if the proposals are passed. I fail to see how you can convince the public of this point. And if the proposals are vetoed, when will be the next time we can activate the 5-step process? When can we have another opportunity for implementing universal suffrage? And can you be sure whether the next opportunity will still be based on the 831 decision or not? So you should seize this opportunity for the sake of Hong Kong. You should really try to engage in a dialogue with the central authorities, which have the real say over this matter. Mr. Wong Yok Man, well, 3 meetings are running concurrently, and I wanted to hear the nonsense here, but I can't listen through the meeting. I'd like to say to pro-establishment members who support the CCP to read a book, The Voice of History. It was written by, it was a collection of art. It was a collection in between 1941 and 1946. Articles or representations by Deng Xiaoping, Mao Zedong, and all the important leaders on democracy. If you had read that book, you would have better representations. According to Mao Zedong, it is very clear that the right to vote and the right to be elected, the right to vote and the right to be elected should be considered together. But you have made that point a number of times. Well, I can always make the same point. Why do I have to resort to other arguments to refute theirs? What they said was rubbish. The so-called Cold War mentality. Tim Chi Yun, why don't you talk about how the basic law has been distorted by CCP? Of course, you are a slave. You won't comment on that. From a 3-step process, we've got 5 steps. Chairman, is it against our ROP to call a government official a slave, a servant? Yes, I asked Mr. Wong Yok Man to stick to the facts. It's useless to attack one another. I really give you face when I call you a slave. You're in fact a slave of the slave. You fail to explain how come from a 3-step process we have 5 steps. You can't. The basic law was designed in such a way that it should be initiated from Hong Kong, 2/3 majority support from LegCo, and all of a sudden there is this extra step a report to be submitted by the CE and confirmation by NPCSC and to design the model for you. Can you explain? You give me a sweetener. You give me something bad and coated with sweet, and why do you allow me to accept me? And do you know the number of voters? You talk about 5 million voters. Now, if the proposals are passed, I will certainly launch a blank vote campaign. 1 million blank votes and only a few hundreds of thousands of votes for the CE elect. You say that 2017 make it happen. No, it won't happen. All right, even if you're able to fabricate a mainstream public opinion, now can you come up with an opinion poll with 2/3 support? Of course not. Oh, you go to the different districts and you go there to lose face. Shameful. Cohen Man is the only official which was courageous enough to talk back. He scolded a member of the public and said, "That's it," and went away. He's better than you because he is willing to show his true face. So what is the point of your having studied so much and you call yourself a Christian? Go back. Go home. Thank you. Mr. Gary Chen, first round. All right. It's now my turn, Chairman. Yes, this is Mr. Gary Chen's turn. I have listened for a while, and I noticed that the Pan-Democrats were making the same remarks, and I think they have been insisting on the fantasy. And recently I went on a duty visit to Germany together with Mr. Lee Chuk-yen, and in the German parliament there are many political parties. Theoretically, it is also difficult to have a consensus in this parliament because they have so many different political parties. But surprisingly, the operation of their parliament is very smooth, based on a few principles. First, they have communication. Second, they have compromise. And third, they have consensus. When we visited the German parliament and opinion leaders, they all referred to these 3 points. Members from both the pro-establishment camp and the pan-democratic camp agreed that communication, compromise, and consensus are important. It's strange. When we were on a duty visit, we all agreed that these were good qualities. But when we come back and discuss constitutional reforms, the pan-democrats forgot everything they commanded back in Germany. They insist on their ideals for the sake of their political personal interest. They are going to let this opportunity for further democracy to slip. This is very regrettable. In 2012, the constitutional proposals were passed with the support of some of the DP members. I don't know why they are not here today. Perhaps they dare not appear here. But I think if they refuse to support the proposals now, that may be a big disappointment to their moderate supporters. They supported the proposals in 2012. Why can't they do the same this time? Perhaps it was because back then they because they experienced some impacts in elections, and therefore this time round they dare not support the proposals. But should they put their interests before the interests of 7 million people in Hong Kong? I hope members from the pan-democratic camps, those who are moderate Democrats in particular, to think about this. In particular, some of them went on the duty visit to Germany, and they also agreed that the 3 principles practiced there were good, and yet they dare not make a similar move here. I think they are not acting in line there with their own conscience. I hope the Democrats would not do this. Any more members in the first round? Second round, we have 4 members. I'll read out their names: Anne Chang, Ronnie Tong, Regina Yip, and Lee Chek Yan. Christopher Zhong, 3 minutes each. Mlang Sing. Okay. After these members have spoken, the meeting will end. First, Dr. Anne Chang, 3 minutes. Chairman, just now Mr. Ronnie Tong said that the pan-democrats and the central authorities are engaged in a struggle for power. I don't agree with him entirely. I think this may be true on the part of the pan-democrats, but there is certainly no struggle of power on the part of the central authorities. As Mr. Wu Chi-wai said, if the central authorities did not give way, the pan-democrats and its supporters would not give way as well. So from Mr. Wu Chi-wai's point of view, perhaps the Democrats are really engaged in a struggle for power with the central authorities, but this is not really the case for the central authorities. Their main consideration is we should set up a political system that is gradual and with orderly development. We know that Western democracies have run into different types of troubles, and their systems were more or less formulated about 2 years ago, and after many years of involvement and changes, well, those systems did suit the prevailing times. However, society is ever changing, and problems have emerged with changes in society, and the problem is they cannot go back as these problems have emerged. That's why the central authorities are so cautious in formulating new systems. For instance, its economic system has been very or rather successful, and for the 831 model, they've considered balanced participation because they are of the view that for our society to continue to develop, balanced participation is very important. And so in 2017, everyone in Hong Kong will be given the right to vote through universal suffrage. And as for the right to be nominated, well, they've given the duty to the nominating committee, where there can be representatives from different sectors, from the pro-establishment camp, from the pan-democratic camp, so on and so forth. So under the basic law, the nominating committee will nominate candidates, and voting will be done by everyone in Hong Kong. So please to understand that this is not a struggle for power, rather it's the best option.
Mr. Ronnie Tong, Just now I spoke and I referred to some matters in principle. I would now like to turn to some technical issues. In the government's amendment, there are 5 paragraphs, but then they haven't provided us with the amended text. I am concerned about Section 7 of Annex 1. Now, it states that if there is to be amendment in the election method, then there should be 2/3 majority support in LegCo. And NPCSE's interpretation is that this means that the method can be changed and it can also not be changed. Now, if the government proposal is passed, then will Section 7 still exist? Or will the amendment supersede it? That's my first question. Second, if Section 7 will still exist, then there is one point of concern in society. Are we going to pocket this proposal for the rest of our lives? It is rather vague because there may be the chance that it will be changed or not changed. And it is a matter about allocation of power. So can SARG amend Section 7 so as to satisfy Hong Kong people? In the future, if the election method is to be optimized, then is it true that there really will be that opportunity? Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. In 2010, the constitutional reform proposal was approved by LegCo, the CE, and NPCSE, and the amendment then was included at the back of Annex 1. In other words, if the original clauses are not in line, then the newly added clauses will be effective and they will replace the original ones. But if the original clauses are not amended, then those clauses will continue to be legally valid. So last time, as well as this time, we're going to scrutinize the bill next week. We haven't touched on Section 7 of Annex 1. So in other words, it will still exist and it will continue to be legally valid. So this is the view of the SARG and the Department of Justice. And when we communicate with the officials in charge in Beijing, they share the same view. So we believe that our legal understanding is correct. Point 2, you asked whether it is possible to include some amendments to Section 7 of Annex 1. Legally speaking, Section 7 of Annex 1 is not about the actual election method for CE. It is about the amendment procedure, so we may not use the 5-step approach. Perhaps we have to resort to the method in Article 159 of the Basic Law to make amendments. Next week, when we have more time to discuss amendments, I can ask the DOJ colleagues to explain this in greater detail, because the explanation a full explanation cannot be made with only 2 to 3 points. Mrs. Regina Ip, Chairman, just now, Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan said that the central government is deceiving people. The nomination committee is just a rubber stamp. He is not a rubber stamp, so he should not criticize others for being a rubber stamp. And he said that we are going to have a pseudo-universal suffrage. Tomorrow, there will be an election in the UK, and we're talking about people over the age 40 who can be nominated. The same goes with the U.S. U.S. is a democratic society. In the future, we may have n number of people or 10 candidates. So, Secretary, you can comment on whether these are actually similar. You don't want to comment on Mr. Tong's remarks. Those who are anti-communist cannot participate in CE election, but according to ICCPR, it is stated that our nomination committee should not discriminate against a person on the basis of political views. According to my teacher, Larry Diamond, we're talking about constitutional democracy. Oh, please don't laugh. I can cite a lot of lines from his books. Secretary, are we having constitutional democracy? Is that the most accurate description? Secretary. Chairman, thank you, Mrs. Regina Ip, for her questions. First, about the nomination committee, it has not been formed yet. So, in the future, well, if there are 1,200 members, no one can comment on its political power allocation right now, because it can only be formed after election. It is now too early to tell who will become members. I won't comment on the specific points made by Mr. Tong. Mrs. Regina Ip referred to the ICCPR. Article 25, the preamble, states that the right to elect and the right to be elected should not be unreasonably restricted. And I have consulted some scholars. They always refer to Article 2 of ICCPR. Governments cannot treat their citizens on the basis of the following factors. And those factors include political views. So in the design of our system, we cannot treat different people differently just because of their different political opinions. They should not be excluded from the system, and we cannot say that we can make sure people with certain political opinions can be included. So both ways are not consistent with ICCPR. People will have to fight for the chance to be elected with their own competence. Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan, Secretary, does that mean that what Mr. Tong Chi-hua said is against ICCPR and the Basic Law? This is my first question for you. Now, just now, Mr. Chen Hek-kan said that we should try to go for a compromise. I want to remind you about Germany. In Germany, there is a constitutional arrangement which is agreed to by all political parties. But then in Hong Kong, there is still FC and also nomination committee, election committee. Now, the other day I asked the Green Party that if the constitutional system is such that you cannot take part, then will you accept a compromise? The Green Party said that they definitely won't compromise. And just now, Mr. Ng Leung Sing drew an analogy about opening a bank account. But unfortunately, you are asking us to open an account with Lehman Brothers. And Ho Chun Yin said that we are causing obstruction to the chance of having the right to vote. Now, he is in the Agricultural and Fishery FC. He is causing obstruction to people having universal suffrage rights. Now, in 2016, nothing can be done, so this is not in line with a progressive approach, a progressive and orderly approach. Please look into the mirror at yourself. You are causing the obstruction, really. Starry Lee has just become the new president of DAB. Please study history. Just now, I just explained how we are deceived. Okay, Liu Ping just passed away. I want to read out what he said back then. I think Mr. Tam Yu Chung is familiar with his remarks. In 1994, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs asked the central authorities, after 2017, can they guarantee that there will be universal suffrage in Hong Kong? Now, the answer was the central authorities don't need to give a guarantee. This is an internal affair in Hong Kong, and the SAR will be the one to make decision. And in Liu Ping's article in People's Daily, democratic development is an internal affair in Hong Kong as long as there is two-thirds majority support in LegCo and consent of chief executive and a record being kept with the central authority. There is not the need for the central authority to consent. Now, that's the promise back then. Why is it that this has changed? Why is it that a 3-step approach has changed into a 5-step approach? That's why I said the 831 decision is unconstitutional. In 2004, there was the 3-step approach, and now it has turned into a 5-step approach. This is deceiving us. It is against Lu Ping's promise. And then in the 5-step approach, originally, the central authority is to confirm the amendment, but it is not that the central authority is to form a framework as to how the amendment should be made. So I think you should study history. You should study the Constitution. This is unconstitutional. Time is up. Okay, everybody is quoting from somewhere else and someone else. Mr. Tong Shikan, it's now 10:30 already. You are still asleep. The pan-democratic members are still asleep. You don't need to look at me. Okay, please don't converse among yourselves. This is now the time for Chong Shikan to speak. Li Chak-yan, please don't talk. Okay, you vote down on Article 23 legislation, and you have received payment from foreigners. I think you have also changed. Opinion polls are not useful to you. You said to the public that even with 80% consent, you will not vote in favor. So you are not democratic. As long as there is more than half of public support, you should support. Well, I think we are only people and you are the leader. This is redundant. Okay, please don't converse between yourselves. Well, I am talking. He scolded many people. He scolded me just now. Please don't fantasize. You thought that the central authority will kneel down. You thought that the CCP will be overturned. I think you have taken the poison of Falun Gong. Please be realistic. You said that I am a political slave. I have not pocketed anyone's money. You are a slave. You are a robber, public robber, because you have accepted money from foreigners. Everybody knows that. He said that I'm a slave. Right. I hope that we should not resort to insulting remarks. I often hear pan-democratic members using this kind of language. So please stop using this kind of language. Yes, Li Chak-yan had used these terms, slaves or public robber and so on and so forth. I don't want to argue with him. He should not put himself into the position of these terms. I think this is just a power fight. Some people want to grab power. Okay, these are the circumstances. I'm sure members of the public can see for themselves. We want a better life. Constitutional system can develop gradually. Why do you want to deprive the public the right to vote? I hope they will change their mind, but I think that will be difficult. I think we should end the unnecessary argument. Next time, I don't want to discuss further these meaningless issues. Next, Mr. Ng Leung saying, thank you, Chairman. I don't want to target at any members. I drew an analogy about opening bank account. Now, there are so many million of bank accounts being opened. How many of them are with Lehman Brothers? Li Chak-yan said that I'm like asking people to open a Lehman Brothers account, and how much has been really pocketed for the time being. I think this is deceiving. And what is the purpose of deceiving people? Okay, I won't continue this kind of discussion. Just now I said to the Secretary, Article 43 of the Basic Law is clear. More people should understand more about CE election.
Why?
The CE election is for the SL and is also for good governance of the SL on behalf of the central authorities. Mr. Bernard Chen, a member of EXCO, was asked when he went to the community that what if the central authorities could pick your wife for you, and his answer was excellent. He said it was about mutual trust. He trusts that the central authorities wish Hong Kong well. Now the Mother's Day is coming. Do we all trust our mothers? Our mothers would always wish us well. What's wrong if your mother is to pick your wife for you? It's been happening for thousands of years. However, we have made a step forward. Through the nominating committee, we can allow 38 members from 38 sectors of subsectors. Yes, there are over 1,000 members in the nomination committee, but they will be elected by legal elections. They are from different industries and sectors. Hong Kong has been so successful because of cooperation among different sectors and industries. If we can nominate N candidates in the CE race, and it will help the central authorities to govern Hong Kong well. So why can't we accept someone who both the central authorities and the people of Hong Kong trust? And I encourage the administration team to meet the public more often. I think Dr. Koh Wing Man made a very good response. On this, I share Mr. Wong Yok Man's view. There is no need to fear refutes and rebuttal. Two more members have raised their hands, but we are supposed to end by 10:30, and we also have to vacate the room for the district councils. Now, these three members, if you don't mind, can you wait until the next meeting, or else I can only give you very limited time. What's your intention? No, I can't give you 4 minutes each because there are 3 members. Okay, 3 minutes each, Mr. KK Fong. Thank you. I think what Mr. Christopher Jung says is usually a joke for everyone in Hong Kong. He said that the Pan-Democrats do not care about public opinions. I think the DAB is just the same. Under Article 54 of the Basic Law, broadly representative nominating committee can go through a nominating procedures, and then the ultimate goal is universal suffrage. I'd like to ask the Secretary. Carrie Lam said that the proposals are in line with Article 54. Does that mean that the existence of the nominating committee will not be bound by Article 54? Can we have local legislation to decide whether the nominating committee will continue to exist? Now, Article 54 is a part of the Basic Law. Only the MPCSC can amend it. And then what about Annex 1? Annex 1 is about the composition of the nomination committee mentioned in Article 54. Can we use local legislation to amend the composition of the nominating committee? If we can't, if we have to rely on the MPCSC to amend it, doesn't that mean that we have to put up with this model forever? I think Mr. KK Fong has jumped a few steps. The term nominating committee was already in Article 54 when the Basic Law was promulgated in 1990, and so far there's been no amendment to the Basic Law so far. And if Mr. KK Fong would like to remove the existence of the nominating committee, of course, the Basic Law has to be amended, and that Article 109 will apply. As regard the composition of the NC, now if you're talking about the size and also the 4-sector makeup and 38 subsectors, well, it is set down in the Basic Law. Any amendment to it will follow the 5-step constitutional procedures. If it is about things regulated by local legislation, then we have to do it by amending our local legislation. And I think members know very well the steps for amending our domestic legislation. Okay. MPCSC said that there must be support from more than half of the NC members. Can this be amended or not? Your time is up. I cannot allow you to go on, Ms. Claudia Mo. On the 18th of March 1993, the People's Daily had an article on Mr. Lu Ping's views, how democracy should develop in Hong Kong is entirely within the jurisdictions of Hong Kong, and there will be no interference from the central government. And now you have this A31 framework. Whether this is a struggle for power, of course, we have regionally have a high degree of autonomy. It is entirely something we can decide in Hong Kong, and yet they have added things. 831 decision is a Beijing law imposed on Hong Kong, a legal framework imposed on Hong Kong by Beijing. So let's be honest. Real democratic elections will not involve screening on the basis of your political convictions. Under the Basic Law, there are some basic requirements. For instance, you have to be over 14. But now you talk about whether the candidate is patriotic and love Hong Kong. Which article of the Basic Law is about this? So it is okay for you to add extra steps to the process. And previous undertaking by Lu Ping, well, you say that it's just his personal opinion. The Secretary likes to ask us not to say lightly that we have to put up with this model forever. And yet you have not given us any undertaking not to mention in writing. You just say that for the future and also election model in the future terms, how can this government give you any undertaking? So you have all to say, and I think you really cannot face up to our future generations. Secretary. Well, the proposals announced on the 22nd of April do not have anything about being patriotic and also loving Hong Kong. But do you agree that it is an uncivilized and implicit requirement? Whether we have to put up with this model forever in answering Mr. Ronnie Tong's question, I think preliminarily, I've made it quite clear that paragraph 7 of Annex 1 has set out the mechanism for amendments. Whether the 5-step process would be activated will depend on the future CE in the light of actual circumstances and after consultation with the community. Mr. Abraham Sheikh, I respect your view and I will defer to the next meeting. Thank you very much. We have to hand over the venue to another meeting. AOB, no AOB, then the next meeting is scheduled for the 12th of May at 2:30. Thank you very much for your attendance.